Much is said online about having the best time on Virgin Voyages cruises, including the fantastic entertainment, the incredible food, but not a lot is said about having a really good night's sleep in your cabin. And although it's not one of the glossiest topics that we could cover, it's really important when you're sailing on Virgin Voyages to make sure you're getting a good night's sleep every night so you can make the most out of the ship the rest of the time. I'm David from VV Insider, and today I'm going to bring all of the tips that we've got across vvinsider.com about how to make the most out of your cabin and make the right choices to get the best night's sleep on board. VV Insider is the #1 resource for the latest Virgin Voyages info, guides and news. From picking the perfect cabin to booking dining, or simply just making the most of your voyage and saving money while you do it, vvinsider.com has helped thousands of sailors around the world sail smarter. Support our work by hitting subscribe and stick around to hear how you can get exclusive perks by booking directly with us. If you sailed with Virgin Voyages in the past, or you've already done a bit of research, you'll understand that there's quite a few different cabin types that are available on Virgin Voyages. And we delve a little bit deeper into this in one of our other videos about choosing the best cabin on board. But today I want to talk about the actual practicalities of being in the cabin and understanding what to expect when you use your band to open your door and walk in for the first time. Now, I'm going to leave a little caveat here and say that your experience will be different depending on which cabin type you've chosen. But for these purposes today, I'm going to talk as if we're all sailing in a Sea Terrace cabin. So actually, your experience will be very similar if you're in an Insider or a Sea View cabin. Just ignore the bits about the balcony. But if you're sailing in a Rockstar or a Mega Rockstar cabin, your experience might be quite different indeed. And we'll be making a video about Rockstar and Mega Rockstar suites in the coming weeks. But quite a lot of the cabin features are actually shared between the Sailor and the Rockstar cabin, so stick around and you might learn something that will be useful for you as well. So one of the first things you'll notice when you unlock your cabin door on board Virgin Voyages is that the lighting will come on automatically and the curtains will automatically open themselves as you enter the cabin. And this is all part of the smart cabin features. The cabins on board Virgin Voyages actually come with quite a few smart functions that I'll talk about in just a moment, but for now, let's put that to one side. So as I talk through the features and the amenities of the room, let's imagine that we're sailing in a Sea Terrace cabin for now, but I'll mention any differences as we go along for those that may be in Insider rooms or in Sea View rooms. So the furnishings in the rooms comprise of one queen bed, which is configurable, and I'll come on to that in just a moment. You'll have one comfortable chair, a small movable table that you can move next to the bed or keep it by the chair. You'll also have a glam station, they call it, which is effectively the dressing desk that will be on one side of the room. That will have a mirror, and it'll also come with a small stool that you can sit at as well. And then you will have ample storage, which includes a wardrobe, shelving, and drawers. The shelves have a safe, and the wardrobe has a curtain that you can pull over to hide all of your clothes to make the room look a lot cleaner and uncluttered after you've unpacked. Inside the wardrobe is where you will find your laundry bag. It's normally hanging up, so it will look like a suit or a dress cover, but actually if you turn it upside down, it has a zip on the bottom and you'll be able to put laundry inside of it if you'd like to send your laundry off to be cleaned. So it serves a bit of a double function. You'll also have the laundry slip, which you can fill out to request your laundry services when you need them. And then of course you'll have your bathroom. Now the bathroom, this is where it does depend on which cabin type that you've chosen, because the Sea Terraces generally have the same bathroom that you will see across the rest of the ships. That is to say, there's a toilet, a sink, and the shower is actually part of all the same room. And the difference here is if you choose one of the XL Sea Terraces, the bathroom will be very different indeed. You actually have one room which has the sink in it, and then you have two separate rooms. One of those rooms is the toilet, and then the other room is the shower. So if you'd like to get ready at the same time as your partner in the morning, it might be better off choosing one of those XL Sea Terrace cabins instead, because it does offer a little bit more flexibility and is generally a little bit more of a comfortable experience when you're getting ready. Then of course, past the curtains, you have a sliding door, which will be your entrance to the balcony. And the balcony, of course, this is reserved for Sea Terrace guests. If you're Insider or Sea View, you will not have this. But if you have a balcony, that is where you'll find the iconic red hammock hanging as well, and you can start using that straight away. As we mentioned before, some of those Sea Terraces do not include one of those red iconic hammocks, so you might need to check your room on vvinsider.com, go onto the cabin lookup tool and put your room number in, just to make absolutely sure that you have one of those hammocks if you want one. If you don't have a hammock in your room, you will have a red hanging basket chair, which is actually quite a nice alternative, and some people actually prefer that. So now we've covered off the basics of the room, let's just go over a couple of specifics. So one very practical thing that I'll mention, which is around electricity outlets and sockets. So where do you actually plug stuff in to charge it up, or where do you plug your hairdryer in, or whichever? So this is probably something that you'll want to get right straight away. You probably had a day of traveling. You'll probably want to plug your phone in as you enter your cabin in the first instance. So luckily the cabins have quite a few different electric outlets that you can use, and they're generally in really convenient places as well. But they're not always built the same, and there are a few caveats that I'll let you know about, so do listen closely. So first and foremost, the most accessible electric outlets that you'll have in your cabin are just above the gland station or the vanity desk. So there you'll actually find 3 different outlets. 2 of those are US outlets, and one of them is what's called a universal power outlet, but you can think of this more commonly as like an EU socket type. And that's the style which is circular with 2 circular shaped contacts. Now the reason this is important is because you might have equipment with you that only works in one of these type of sockets. Now I'm not just talking about using a universal power adapter. Of course, if you have a universal power adapter, everything will work just fine, as long as it's the right voltage, and that's where this is quite important. So traveling from the UK ourselves, if we're bringing some of our UK appliances, for example, hairdryers or straighteners, they only work with the EU style power outlet, and that's because it only gives the certain level of voltage that's needed for those type of appliances. If you try and use the American style socket, it sometimes will not work, and it could actually damage your equipment as well, so be very careful. And if you're using anything like that from the UK or from the EU, always use the EU style socket and not the American one. Of course, if you're bringing appliances on board and you are American and you have American appliances, simply use the plug in the outlet that's compatible and it will be fine. And if you find that your hairdryer doesn't work, there is a hairdryer in the room as well, so don't worry too much. Next to these power outlets, you will find 2 USB Type A connectors. So these can be used to power and charge USB devices. When you enter the room, you'll probably find that one of those USBs is already taken up, and that's being used to charge the tablet. The tablet device is what you will use in the room to control the lighting and the air conditioning. It also controls the TV, and I'll come back later on in this video to tell you exactly what the tablet does and how to use it. So back to the electric sockets. So there are 2 more places you can power your devices, and these are by the bed, which is very convenient because you might want to charge your phone or your smartwatch as you're sleeping. So both of these power outlets have the same connections. So you're going to find a USA outlet, and you're also going to find 2 more USB Type A connectors. So a little note on those USB connectors, these are USB Type A connectors. And yes, USB Type A are becoming a little bit harder to find out in the world. So actually when you're bringing your devices on board, you might actually find that your iPhone or your smartwatch comes with a connector that has a USB-C type, which is the smaller one. And this won't be compatible with the USB-A socket. So do make sure if you plan to charge anything with USB and you're using USB-C, that you're bringing some sort of adapter or connector to be able to plug your devices in. The ships, unfortunately, are a little bit behind the times when it comes to USB. We don't know which type of USB socket that brilliant lady will have because it's yet to launch, but it's likely because the ship was built around the same time as the other ships that it will probably have USB Type A. But of course, keep an eye on vvinsider.com and we'll update our electric outlet guides to update you with the latest information about what Brilliant Lady offers as she launches later this year. So those type of connectors are available on both sides of the queen bed, so you'll have 2 of those outlets. And one of those outlets will generally be where the chair and the table setup will be. So it's actually a great place if you need to do some work while you're on the ship and you need to plug your laptop in. That's generally quite a convenient place to plug your equipment in. Now remember, the things that you're prohibited from bringing on board are generally to avoid any fire hazards. And this generally means electric devices that you're prohibited from bringing. So you're not able to bring irons, you're not able to bring your own steamer, although you can ask for a steamer if you need to decrease your clothes. So simply ask your room keeper for one if you need one. And one other thing that you can't bring, which would be really useful, but you're not allowed, and it is for a good reason, is a power strip or a multi-port extension. So if you're thinking that it's quite limited and you don't have many sockets or outlets in the room, unfortunately, you're not able to increase the amount of sockets by bringing on an extension lead. If you try and bring that with you, it will generally be confiscated from your luggage and you will need to retrieve that before the end of your voyage. So now that's electric outlets out the way, let's talk a little bit more about the functions and the features that are available to you as part of your smart cabin. So the smart cabin features actually all boil down really to what's available on your tablet device, which is the one that's plugged into one of the USB ports that I mentioned earlier. The tablet device is connected to all of the features in the room. So not only can you control the lighting from the tablet, you're actually also able to control the air conditioning from the tablet as well, and also the curtains. So they actually have an electric motor in them, and you can press a button on the tablet and they will open for you. The tablet also controls the television. One of the great features about Virgin Voyages is that the movies and entertainment that's available on the TV are all free of charge. They're all included with your cruise fare. You're not having to pay any more for them. So you can actually use the tablet to put one of these movies on. It will also ask as you start a movie whether you want to set the mood for that. So actually it will use the smart room technology to turn the lighting down, close the blinds, so you can enjoy the movie in somewhat of a cinematic environment. There are also a few modes available on the tablet itself, so you can set the room, for example, into Zen mode. So if, for example, you've had a lot of fun at the PJ party the night before and you need a little bit of extra time in your cabin, you can set it to Zen mode. It will reduce the lighting and set it to a nice blue hue, I believe it is. It will close the blinds and it will play calming music. There are also a few other modes on there, so have a swipe through and take a look. Some of them are quite fun and are themed to different activities you might get up to in your cabin. Now, of course, because the tablet is connected to your TV, it will also be the place that you'll go to as you enter your room to start playing the safety video, which is a requirement of you entering the ship. So you'll do this as part of your safety muster. So you can go on the tablet, press play, and the movie will start playing, and that will tell you about all the safety features aboard the vessel. Now, a couple of last notes about the functionality and the electric features that you've got going on in your room. Near the door itself, you'll see a little panel, a black panel, which will have two buttons on it. One of the buttons, when you press it, will go red, and the other button will go blue. The red button is the do not disturb mode. So you can put that on to make sure that your housekeeper knows that you're using the room and you don't need any service at that time. Of course, always make sure it's switched off as you leave the room if you want your room made up for the day. Otherwise, you might get back after your day out in port, for example, to find that your room has not been touched since you woke up. So do make sure you disable that if you need to. But then, of course, the blue button does the exact opposite. So the blue button is a bit of an indicator to your room steward or your housekeeper that you'd actually like the room made up. So if you press the blue button, that will show up on your door. So as the housekeeper is making their round, they can see that you've requested your room to be made up, and they can pop in there and make sure everything's great for you. And the last note on the electric features in the room, which is something that's very important for us as UK sailors, is the air conditioning in the room. And I will say the air conditioning on board Virgin Voyages is very good, and it can make the room very, very cold indeed. So be careful if you're setting it to one of the lowest settings. We generally find, even though we are from the UK, that actually the middle level is quite good for us. There is a panel on the wall just outside the bathroom for you to change these settings, or of course, you can do it from the tablet itself if you'd like to use that smart functionality. One thing I will say, which is very important, is to always make sure your balcony door is closed if you're not using it. And the reason for that is twofold. One is that the air conditioning will not work if your cabin door is open even just a bit. Even if it's fully closed and it's not completely locked, the air conditioning will simply not operate. And you'll actually see an indicator light on the air conditioning panel to tell you when this is the case. So if you feel the room heating up and can't quite understand why, check the balcony door is closed because it simply won't work if it's open. And another important reason is that there is some sort of phenomenon that happens where if your balcony door is open and somebody opens your cabin door, there will be this massive gust of wind. And you might have seen some viral social media content around this with things flying around the room in some ridiculous tempest, the curtains going everywhere. And although I'm not sure of the physics of that, it definitely is a thing. So make sure that your balcony door is closed in case you have things flying around your cabin that you don't want to, or somebody might get injured if the door slams, for example. A few notes on the bathroom. The shower is very spacious and you get a rain head shower and also a wand. You will also have access to shampoo, conditioner and shower gel, which are by a brand called Red Flower. I've not come across them personally before I sailed on Virgin Voyages, but they are very good, and they come in a dispenser style pump action container, which is fixed to the wall, and your room attendant will top that up if it's needed. The sink has a vanity area around it and a raised shelf, so there's plenty room to put your toothbrush and your toiletries. There's also a shelf underneath the vanity as well, so if you want to get rid of your toiletry bag, for example, you can just put that underneath there for safekeeping, and you can keep your vanity nice and clear for your voyage. And just one quick note on the toilet. If you've never cruised before, the toilets on board cruisers act a little bit like an airplane toilet, by which I mean you need to close the lid before you flush because there's some sort of vacuum action that takes place. So for safety, keep the lid closed as you're flushing. Also, a really important note to make sure you're not putting anything down there that might clog up the internal system of the ship. So make sure you're not putting foreign objects down there, and there's a sign to tell you exactly that as well. So that's all the functions of the room covered. A couple of things that will be in the room for your own personal use. So water, you will have 2 carafes of water. They will generally be still, but if you prefer sparkling or you'd like to have 1 still and 1 sparkling, simply ask your housekeeper and they can arrange that for you. But it's filtered water and it's complimentary for you to use as part of your cruise fare, which is a really nice perk. You don't have to buy water bottles. In fact, you're not allowed plastic water bottles on board Virgin Voyages, and that's part of their environmental ethos. So if you do drink a lot of water, bring your own water bottle and you can fill that up at refill stations around the ship. Or you can simply ask for filtered water from any bar because soft drinks are included as part of your voyage fare. You can get that from anywhere, so you will not go thirsty, I promise. So other things that you'll find in the room, you'll have a sexton style corkscrew that you can use for opening wine. You can bring 2 bottles of wine on board. We have a page on vvinsider.com which tells you all about that. You'll also generally find a rubber octopus, which is kind of like a rubber duck, that you can take as a souvenir if you like. It will be obviously charged to your onboard account, but these are quite a nice souvenir and they are themed to ships. So at the moment for Scarlet, you've got a red octopus, for Valiant, you have a purple octopus, and for Resilient, you have a teal or a turquoise octopus. We're still waiting to see what the brilliant lady octopus color is going to be. There's certain rumors going around. We have our money on orange, but we'll see how close we are when we get to August during brilliant launch season. You'll also find a throw in the room that you're able to use for your voyage as well. So I've got an example here behind me. This is the red one. This is what you get in the sailor cabins, Sea Views, Sea Terraces. If you're sailing as a Rockstar or a Mega Rockstar, the color scheme is slightly different. It's like a purple color. If you take those out of the cabin, it will be charged to your onboard account, or they're available in the high street gift shop, which is what we've done here. Recently, Virgin Voyages have supplied as well 2 beach towels in the room, red beach towels that you're able to use and take off the ship if you like. If you return them back to your room, you can use them complimentary. If you take them off the ship or you put them in your case, you're very welcome to do that if you like, but they will be charged to your onboard account. And there'll be a little note in the room to tell you exactly how much they'll charge for that. If you're unsure about taking any of these items out of the room or taking them with you as you leave the ship, ask your housekeeper and they'll tell you the details that you'll need to know. Certainly don't remove anything from the room if you're not sure whether you can or not. Always ask because you don't want to get the housekeeper in any trouble if you've taken something you really shouldn't have. So that's in general what you'll find in your cabin. Now I just want to mention a few things about getting a really good night's sleep on board Virgin Voyages. And the first thing I want to mention is the configuration of the beds. So depending on who you're sailing with, the size of your party and the room that you've chosen will really dictate what the beds will look like. Generally, if you're sailing as a couple, you'll find the normal configuration of the 1 queen bed absolutely fine. Now, if you're sailing with more people, or if you're sailing with friends, for example, you might need to ask your room attendant or your housekeeper to make some changes to the bed configuration. So if you'd prefer to have 2 twin beds instead of 1 queen bed, you can ask them to split it apart. And the way that it'll be split apart is it will be put into almost like an L shape, where one of the twin beds is facing one way and then the other twin bed is facing the other. If you're sailing with more people in the room, so if you've got 3 sailors in your room, for example, the room attendant will actually lower the Pullman style bed from the ceiling and make that up for you and set the ladder up so that you can use that. The only other exception for this, of course, is the social insider room, which is the only non-Rockstar room on the ship that can accommodate 4 people. And this is 2 twin beds with 2 Pullman beds that come down as well. So it's effectively 2 bunk beds that you'll see in the room. If you have any trouble sleeping or if you need a configuration or adjustment needed at all, let your room attendant know because there are a few things that they can do to make your night's sleep a little bit more comfortable. For example, one thing that we always ask for when we sail in a sailor cabin is a mattress topper, and it does make the bed a lot more comfortable. And really the only reason why the beds are not as comfortable as they could be is because the beds themselves are actually designed to be turned into a sofa, so you can use the whole room as almost like a living room through the day, and then you can change the cabin back to being a bedroom at night. Now, originally Virgin Voyages, when they launched, were going to do this for everyone. They were going to change the room around every single day so everyone could enjoy their living room on the daytime and then they could enjoy their bedroom on the nighttime. Now, this is still possible. So if you do want to have that experience where you've got a larger room and it's configured, it's set up like a living room for the daytime, you can ask your room attendant to do that if you must. But otherwise, they're just going to keep it in the bedroom configuration instead. Now, because of that design decision, it does mean that the mattresses aren't necessarily as comfortable as they possibly could be. So that's why we ask for the mattress topper when we're sailing on Virgin Voyages, and you're certainly welcome to ask your room attendant for the same. Also, don't be afraid to ask for anything else that could make your stay a little bit more comfortable. So if you require extra pillows, or you'd like them to take pillows away, or you prefer another duvet, if your partner steals the duvet, for example, you certainly can ask for that as well. The room staff will do anything in their power to make it as comfortable as possible for you. And if there's anything that they can't do, they'll tell you very politely, but it's certainly worth an ask. One other note on getting a good night's sleep is to, of course, make sure that you're not in one of those cabins that's in one of those noisy areas. So we at vvinsider.com have catalogued all of the cabins on all of the ships to tell you if you've been assigned a room that might be in one of those noisy areas. There's a couple of examples where this might be the case. So for example, if you're right next to an entertainment venue like the Manor, the nightclub, or if you're next to the Red Room, you might hear people or music throughout the day and into the night. So just check that you're not near one of these venues. And again, on vvinsider.com, the cabin lookup tool, if you put your cabin number in there, it will tell you if that's the case. Also, you might be next to one of those operational areas as well. So for example, there are areas on the ship that are used for heavy machinery. Don't forget you're actually on an ocean-going vessel, so there is of course the need for ropes and chains to be moved around, machinery to be used. And sometimes the areas where that's done is a little bit too close to guest cabins. So again, on vvinsider.com, we can tell you if that's the case. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about your cabin on Virgin Voyages. Now, as I've said before, your experience if you're sailing in a Rockstar or a Mega Rockstar suite will be quite different, and we're going to be covering those differences in a video in the coming weeks. So make sure you subscribe to hear more about the Rockstar and the Mega Rockstar experience, because it is a fantastic experience. It is a little bit more expensive, but in my opinion, it's worth every penny. And we're going to cover off all the benefits that you get as part of that option in one of our upcoming videos. So make sure you subscribe for that. And as ever, if you found this video useful in any way, a lot of this information is already on vvinsider.com, so you can read that at your leisure. If you'd like to support the work that we do here at vvinsider.com, which is namely telling you all about your Virgin Voyages experience before you get on board and helping you plan the perfect vacation, then please do us a favor by following and subscribing on our social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook. And also share these videos, share the guides with the people that you're sailing with. I'm sure they'll really appreciate it. And not forgetting, of course, the best way to support us is to bring us along on your next Virgin Voyage. So if you want to make a booking, or if you're interested in making a booking with Virgin Voyages, we can help you with that. We work with a travel agent called The Getaway Guys. They're one of the top 10 travel agents in the US, although they do provide travel advice for people across the world in any currency. So we ourselves are based in the UK and we've used them for a number of years. If you book your voyage or link your voyage with us with that partnership, we can give you ad-free access to vvinsider.com, and it also helps us do this work and bring this information and guides to you. So do consider us next time you're booking your next Virgin Voyage. So thank you so much for listening today. I've been David at VV Insider, and that just leaves me to say happy voyaging.